Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Welcome back to my craft room for a pretty pink Posh video. And I'm excited to share with you a fun take on the brand new construction products from Pretty Pink Posh. I had Barbie on the mind and I thought it'd be really fun to create a fun card inspired by if Barbie had her own construction company, what would it look like? So I've die cut lots of dies here. In my first tray, I have the big excavator dies, and in my other tray, I have the big dump truck dies, and I die cut them out of different color pink cardstocks as well as some holographic. I have black for my rollers for the excavator and wheels for the dump truck. And I also did blue die cuts for the windows and brown, two different shades of brown for the dirt. So I'm starting with adhering my excavator together first. So I have the rollers going together. So I have the largest piece in black cardstock, the three larger circles in holographic silvery cardstock, and then three glittery pink cardstock circles for the center of those rollers. Now, I wasn't sure how I wanted to put the arm together. I love this dice in that the arm is like separate pieces, so you can put the arm in different positions depending on what you're doing. Another Pretty Pink Posh design team member, also Davina, she created hers with brads and a pull tab so you can make the excavator arm move, which I think is so cool. So there's definitely lots of fun ways you can use this die. So I've glued the rollers onto the main cab of the excavator. I added my window and my little door handle, and now I'm going to put the arm together. So I put the little clump of dirt into the bucket, and I'm going to play around with how I want the arm to, be positioned so that the bucket is not going to be going past the rollers of the excavator. So once I have kind of the layout, I'm going to glue all the arm pieces together. So first just gluing the different joints together, and then I'm adding in the little extra small circles that I die cut out of some holographic cardstock as well to kind of be the connectors that keep the arm together. Finally, I'm gluing the arm onto the excavator cab, and that will finish off putting together our first large construction vehicle. Next, let's move on to the dump truck. I have the bed of the truck in kind of that same lighter pink as the excavator, and then the actual like dump truck, the part where you would store all the dirt, is in a darker pink. I brought in again some of that sparkly pink cardstock, but I'm going to first put together the wheels. So these only have two, so I used black for the tire and the holographic for adding the details onto the tire. I adhered my back of the truck onto the truck bed, and I wasn't really sure how I wanted it to line up. Eventually, I kind of got it placed how I liked it, and then I'm going to glue the details of the truck on. So I'm starting with gluing that long piece of glitter cardstock, and I'm adding some of the truck details in holographic to the front of the car or the front of the truck, as well as the window and the detail of the door handle. Once all of those items are in place, I'm going to add in the wheels. I made sure to leave a spot for the wheel kind of near the front of the truck, and then one will go more towards the back. I didn't want it to go too high up. I wanted to make sure it looked kind of realistic where the axles would be under the car or under the dump truck. After that, I'm going to glue the dirt in. So I'm starting with a large pile of dirt into the back of the dump truck. And then I used the different kind of rock looking pieces. It kind of reminds me of a chocolate chip cookie a bit to glue onto the dirt. I die cut this set of die, or this die set of three twice. So I have two extra pieces, and I'm actually going to use later on in the card to cover a little boo-boo I made while cutting cardstock. So there are my two trucks or utility vehicles. They're ready to go. I've taken the smallest of the fancy card dies, the smallest flap, and I've die cut it out of white cardstock. And I've also trimmed a panel of white cardstock to A2 in size, 4¼ by 5½ inches. And I got a little bit of ink on my fancy card die piece. I really need to clean my die cutting machine, the like top plate that I use, but I just used a sand eraser to get off any excess ink that I got on there by accident. So I'm going to do some stenciling on these two pieces. So I'm going to bring out the brick background stencil. So I'll get my desk set up to do some stenciling. And for this brick detail, again, we're going with Barbie pink for everything here. Now I know that it's going to seem like I'm trying to make this a girl's card. I'm a firm believer that girls can play with trucks and they don't have to be pink. But this is Barbie Construction Company, and she definitely would have everything pink. So I have Kitsch Flamingo and picked Raspberry. I'm going to use the Distress Oxides to ink this brick design onto my cardstock. So I'm starting with the lighter color, Kitsch Flamingo, and I'm going to add in a whole layer of that down. I kind of stopped where I knew the flap was going to overlap. I wanted to make sure I had room below for the person who would be giving this card to have room to write, you know, a little sentiment on the inside of the card. So I just have that blend between the dark and light pink on the top half and kind of at an angle of my background. So I, again, started with Kitsch Flamingo and then brought in picked Raspberry. I'm going to repeat this, but the other way on the lower flap, the fancy card die cutout that I have here. This is going to actually be the front of my card. But this time I'm going to start from the bottom and I'm going to do Kitsch Flamingo all the way up so it kind of lightens up at the top. And then I brought in that picked Raspberry to darken the bottom. So I love a good stencil reveal, and here you can see how fun those pink bricks are. And we will move on to assembling our card together. So before I add the flap, I do want to add a sentiment. I was originally going to glue the flap right onto this A2 backing. I had plenty of room. It was a good size A2 card, and I was really happy with how it was turning out. But I'm going to make a mistake, I guess you could say, with my sentiment stamping. So I'm going to apply some double-sided adhesive to where the flap would adhere to my A2 background. Again, I'm making an A2 card, but before I added it, I wanted to make sure I got my sentiment stamped down. So I'm going to grab the new stamp set called Utility Vehicles. There is a coordinating die set, but for this card, I'm only using the stamps. And I'll go ahead and grab my little Misty here, and I'm going to get my background panel lined up onto into my Misty, and then I'm using my fancy card die to get an idea of where I can stamp my sentiment, where it will be hidden behind the flap. Now what I didn't take into consideration is that I needed to scoot it over a little bit to the right because it's going to stamp exactly where I need to adhere the flap of my card down. So I have to pivot, and I will cut another A2 piece of cardstock, and I'm basically going to sandwich my flap in between those two pieces. You can see there where I was like, oh my goodness, I did not scoot that far enough over. So I cut another A2 piece of cardstock, and I'm just going to adhere the flap directly into that bottom lower corner of the cardstock, and then I will glue the brick pattern and my sentiment on the inside or the top layer. So you'll see here I'll glue the flap down, and then I needed to trim off a little bit off of the side of my brick background here. So I started trimming it and I accidentally ripped my paper. Now I do apologize. I am gonna actually skip to the end here because I lost some footage. I think I forgot to hit record when I was taking a quick break. I was actually not feeling super great this day, so I was taking breaks in between areas of, or between sections of making this card. So I just sandwiched those two pieces. You can see the flap, it looks like it's hidden now. And I glued or adhered my excavator to the background with some 1mm foam adhesive, and my dump truck is popped up just onto that flap with 2mm foam adhesive. To make my sentiment, I made my own high by using the Large Hugs Shadow die set. I die cut the sentiment out of white cardstock and I trimmed the U so it looked like an eye. And then I adhered it to the shadow piece and trimmed around that so it had an even look all the way around the word high. So I wanted to go for that Hi Barbie kind of look. And where I made a boo-boo on my paper, it just from the paper cutter kind of ripping my paper a little, I added those last two rocks to the inside of the card to cover that up. I also added a few strawberry shimmer confettis around the card just to have a little bit more pink shine because, you know, we needed more pink on this card. But I still hope that you learned something today and that you had fun creating this Barbie-inspired construction site with everything in pink. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!